Hi everyone and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell. You can find me on Twitter at utterlytc, and welcome everyone to a Meet the Elite team reveal with Dan Bennett. I'm so excited to get back into this. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back. Merry Christmas. Preemptive strike for a happy new year as well, and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel for the first elite team reveal with me, Tom Campbell. I'm so excited to welcome back Dan Bennett. So we've had these videos on pause, guys, since we spoke to Craig before the World Cup, and hopefully everyone is warmed back up to FPL again. I know that I am excited to get back into it and try and correct my overall rank. And to help us do that, we have got some great people, great managers to help us select the best teams going forward. So we are in game week 17, guys. We are recording during the game week, so it's a little bit funky at the moment. There's a lot of games still being played, and obviously it's a super short turnaround to game week 18, and we are going to ask Dan what factored into his decision making for his game week 17 team, how he's doing in game week 17, and whether or not there are any players that he's targeting for game week 18 and beyond. So let's get into it. Dan, welcome back, man. Very Merry Christmas and a preemptive Happy New Year to you. How has your season been going prior to the World Cup? Let's start with that.
Thanks, Tom. Same to you. Happy holidays.
Appreciate it.
Yes, I've enjoyed the break, to be honest with you. I enjoyed the World Cup, but I'm excited FPL is back. We've got so much of the season left. It feels like we're halfway through, but we're not even halfway through yet.
It's a really good point, mate. Like, we talked about it with Craig at the end of the first part of the season. Like, people have been talking about the first half of the season, but actually there's a majority of the season remaining. I know we're kind of actively in game week 17 right now. So, you know, guys, if you've had a non-fantastic start to the season, at least you can take solace in the fact that there's more of the season left than there has been elapsed already. So lots of chips to be played with as well. And obviously we've all had this de facto wild card as well. So, Dan, we're looking at the live rank there. And we should say that this live rank was put together before yesterday's games, which featured Man United's comprehensive win over Nottingham Forest. And we can see in the background there, Dan, that there is a Man United shirt, nice sharp sponsorship shirt back from probably the early 90s. I think that one would have been there. So as a Man United fan, Dan, without giving too much away about your team, how did the live rank change with the Man United game that took place yesterday?
Yeah, I think it's gone up to about 300k. I started at half a million.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really enjoyed yesterday. Yeah, we can get into that. It's the first time I've really had United players to cheer in my FPL team for a while.
I understand. And what are your feelings about Man United assets going forward, Dan? Obviously, they've got Erik ten Hag in, January transfer window upcoming. Cristiano Ronaldo has left, whether or not that's going to impact players in different ways. How do you feel about them as a collective entity for FPL managers looking to shape their team? Do you like their assets ongoing, and do you think it's worth sort of selecting more than one? And which players are really leaping out to you?
I do. I think they've got some nice fixtures at the minute, and they're cheap. I think Rashford had a 3 million price drop from last season. So yeah, I think they could provide great value. Rashford and Martial. And even the likes in defence, it was good to see Varane straight back.
Yeah, good on him.
World Cup final loss, but yeah, straight back in yesterday.
Yeah,
Casemiro's game changer.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, he's not necessarily someone you'd look to in this format of fantasy football, is he, Casemiro, of course, but the actual impact he makes on the team as a collective just seems to make them so much more effective. Like, yes, I know it's a home game against a relegation candidate in Nottingham Forest, but yeah, they look cohesive, and the fact that they've got that partnership at centre half, which we'd think it would be Raphael Varane and Martinez will be the two at centre half, we'd assume, and being really solid as well, and some great prices there. What about Tony Martial, Dan? Do you think he's someone that's we can trust now? Obviously, his FPL returns have been terrific historically in terms of when he's on the pitch, but just a question mark about his fitness. What are your feelings on Martial?
Yeah, I think he's okay when they've got good fixtures, but he's probably not someone long-term you want, because he got 65 minutes last night, and that's probably all we're going to get out of him. So yeah, there are probably better players, but when they've got good fixtures and he should start most games, assuming he can stay fit.
Yeah, I mean, Ten Hag, didn't he mention yesterday that they are looking to recruit in January, which makes sense. Never really replaced Cavani, you could argue. And obviously, Ronaldo, say what you want about him, but he does leave them a striker short. And if Martial does get injured, then you're looking at probably Marcus Rashford playing through the middle, aren't you? Like he did after Martial got taken off yesterday. So lots to consider from a Man United perspective. In terms of that first part of the season, Dan, before we look at how you put your team together for game week 17 and your thoughts for game week 18, what are your sort of overall observations about how that played out? Were there any kind of FPL stalwarts that you sort of thought, based on those first 16 game weeks, you can't see them, quote unquote, ever leaving the team? Obviously, that's dependent on injury and form and what have you. Based on that first part of the season, who were the kind of standouts that you say to you, do you know what? Template notwithstanding, you've got to have them. Let's take Erling Haaland as Reds, but beyond Erling Haaland, was there anyone that you just sort of thought it's going to be too hard to progress without including them?
I think after Haaland, the next on the list for me is probably Trippier.
Trippier, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Newcastle looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Second in the league. I don't think he'll leave my team. The other one that I've had since the start is Martinelli.
Okay, yeah, good value.
There's a lot of Arsenal assets to consider.
Sure.
But the fact I haven't had him since the start, I think I'll just persevere with him.
Yeah. And presumably you've got a lot of value tied up in him as you picked him up from the beginning of the season.
Now 6.8.
Yeah. Understandable, Dan. And just before we move on very quickly then, you mentioned Newcastle there, obviously Kieran Trippier as well. And they don't look like they're going anywhere, right? You'd expect them to probably be able to spend in January as well and augment that squad. Obviously, some folks would have gone with Callum Wilson in the team, picked up an illness. There's not a lot you can do about that on the day of the game in game week 17. But beyond that, Dan, are you a Miggy Almiron early adopter, or is it someone that's come into the thoughts more recently? What are your thoughts on the midfielder there?
Yeah, we'll see in a minute. But I've picked him up for the first time.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm glad to be on that bandwagon. Yeah.
Rightio. All right. Well, I think we've teased it enough, Dan. So let's have a little look at how you shaped up for Game Week 17. We're going to talk about your thoughts that went into that, and then talk about what your plans are for Game Week 18, which is very much close on the horizon. So let's take a look at how you set yourself up. So I think the first thing that people will look at, I've graded these out to try and give a little bit of suspense here, and we can see on the bench there that you've kept with the Danny Ward or selected Danny Ward. Not sure whether or not he was included before the World Cup. Ben White, obviously great value. Andres Pereira as well as sort of been a great value pick in the Fulham midfield as well, and then I guess Bueno is a make weight, I would assume, rather than looking to use him a lot there. So the bench there we can talk about a little bit if you'd like, but let's talk about this goalkeeper reveal first of all. Dan, if I said to you Kepa at the start of the season, I think you'd have looked at me like, Tom, do you know what you're talking about? But he's in a lot of teams. So what are your thoughts and how much do we trust this Chelsea defense and Kepa, Dan? What are your overarching? Let's include the defenders as well here, so we can have a look. And again, guys, apologies, this is mid-game week, so you've got Reece James there. We haven't included his points so far. Points plural might be too much, actually, bearing in mind when he got taken off. But let's talk about Chelsea as a whole. How do you see them as a defensive unit there, and what sort of factored into your thought-making process there for game week 17?
Yeah, they didn't do great before the World Cup break, but it's just Kepa's price at 4.5. I mean, he obviously didn't expect. Was it 9 points yesterday? I think that was obviously better than expected, but against Bournemouth, perhaps we should have expected it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. It was the lack of alternatives as well. I saw quite a few people go Edison. Yeah. I'm sure he'll tick over well, but yeah, I couldn't really nail down another goalkeeper I wanted, so it sort of fell nicely just in for Kepa, and glad to see he's back from injury straight away. Yeah,
and the double game week up coming, right, as well with
yes, double game week 19.
That's right. Yeah, and I know one of them's against Man City as well, but looks like he's solid. I mean, there was talk of Mendy rejecting a 6-year contract, wasn't there? So A bit of unrest there in terms of his position. Kind of weird to be offered the long-term contract, but also not be number one. But, Kepa's done well, hasn't he, under Potter?
Yeah, so I think that's why I've got Danny Ward on the back of, just in case Mendy does somehow get back in the team.
Yeah, I think sensible, definitely. And it makes sense, doesn't it? At any one time they can fall out of favour or form. So, and Ward still great value. Whether or not we trust the Leicester defence after their showing against Newcastle, probably a different question. For sure.
Keep his place.
So, I mean, Reece James then, was there any thought to, we won't look at the midfield just yet, but was there any thought when you were putting your team together, Dan, in terms of potentially even trebling up for Chelsea at the back, or was that a bit too avant-garde?
Yeah, that's a bit too much for me. I wanted to keep a third option open. I had considered Mount in midfield, but we'll get onto that in a minute. But,
sure.
Yeah, Reece James, I've loved owning him in the past. It's the, what they call it, the James roulette. It's either 0, 1 or 18.
That's it.
I just want a piece of that action, but unfortunately, injury, and it doesn't sound too positive.
No,
but
it doesn't.
I'll hold for now.
You will hold. Okay, interesting. I mean,
yeah.
We were asking you when we were putting the content together whether or not there were any transfer plans. You sort of mentioned, broad, and typically you'd expect to want to be able to hold after having the opportunity to put a team together and build up those 2 free transfers in the pocket. But I guess Reece James's injury, like you say, but at the time of recording, we've not got heaps of information available. It doesn't sound super positive, bearing in mind the injuries in the same sort of location as the one that kept him out previously. But let me play devil's advocate, Dan. Let's say the news breaks in the next sort of 24 hours or so that he's going to be out for a couple of weeks or rather like a month or so, and he's going to miss a handful of game weeks. Would you at that point just be like, do you know what, it's too risky, even though you've got good options on the bench in Ben White and Pereira, and you'd move him on? And if so, where would you be looking in terms of a Reece James replacement if it came to be that you just couldn't keep him?
Yeah, I've put together a short list of Cucurella, to go straight back to Chelsea, or Castagna. Leicester have got some nice fixtures.
They do.
Botman, but I don't want to. Don't think I want to double on Newcastle. I just want to keep that third slot open for possibly Callum Wilson. Yeah. The other option, maybe Dunk from Brighton.
Okay.
But one of the key reasons I want to roll is, I think that there's double game week 21 could be quite a big double game week.
Yeah.
For a few teams, and we don't have that information yet.
That's true.
So just holding a little bit longer, maybe we'll get some double game week 21 information. Soon.
That's just something I've observed from your answers there, Dan, about keeping that third slot available. I mean, if we were to talk FPL strategy for a moment, is that something which typically you'd look to do and actually almost allow yourself that flexibility of that third slot once more information comes to bear and you're able to determine who that is? And actually, you're sort of saying it's good practice to go for the double, but to keep that one back until we know a little bit more. Is that something that you do typically?
Yeah, it was quite a big factor in this unlimited transfers, to be honest. We'll get onto the rest of my team, but I don't think I've tripled up on any team just to keep that up, the third option flexible.
Yeah, I think it's good advice, and I think maybe we as FPL managers watching and listening in should bear that in mind when putting together teams in wildcard or sort of free hit type. Well, maybe not free hit, but in this season, obviously we had a de facto wildcard as well. So you mentioned revealing the rest of the team. Let's just reveal this midfield quartet here, Dan. So obviously Marcus Rashford, lovely return yesterday, keeping up his form. You've supplemented him with Mo Salah, Martinelli you already mentioned, and Miguel Almiron we mentioned. So, I mean, we talked template, didn't we, Dan? And we're going to reveal the forwards in a moment. Some of the observations I've been seeing on social media and to my friends, etc., has been there's a little bit of apathy about how similar teams are because of the nature of everyone having this unlimited transfer period during the World Cup. And, everyone's in the know, lots of information and stuff. And you're seeing very kind of similar teams. I'm just going to go ahead and reveal those forwards as well. And you can see that, fairly sort of standard picks there. But what are your thoughts on that? If you were to offer sort of words of encouragement to people who are feeling maybe a bit disenfranchised about how similar teams are, you experienced FPL manager, you being an experienced FPL manager, Dan, what would you say to those folks in terms of, being able to stick with it, and how would you encourage them to keep the faith that things are going to, diversify ongoing?
Yeah. I mean, each pick in isolation is quite popular, but the actual 11 across the whole of FPL won't be very common.
It's true.
I started at 500,000. I'm already at 300k.
Yeah,
I think the ranks are quite tight still at the minute, which is promising for those of us who, not where we want to be right now. But yeah, I wouldn't be afraid of just going with the players that you think are going to score the most points. I think Darwin, lucky the other day, he could have had more, but everyone's returned so far apart from Darwin and James.
Yeah, you've had a great return, definitely, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people pick up some great returns in game week 17, and I guess it's right. So I mean that combination that you mentioned as well is something you can check on fantasyfootballfix.com as well, guys, in terms of being able to isolate or identify the kind of ownership statistics of your specific squad. So if you are feeling like kind of everyone's got him, like Dan says, the actual combination of the 11 or the full squad will be a lot lower than you necessarily might think when you actually factor in those full complement of players. And we looked on the previous slide, didn't we, about the number of chips you still have at hand, Dan, double game weeks you've mentioned that aren't yet known, etc. This is a long game, right? FPL, it goes a long way, so you got to stay patient.
As we said, not even halfway through the number of games, but also the more exciting end of the season, double game weeks, chips.
Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, looking at that midfield four, Almiron, Salah, Rashford, Martinelli, and the front three, leading the way there. Let's say injuries notwithstanding, that to me, Dan, looks like a sort of set and forget style team, right? Would you ever sort of countenance Ben White being brought into the starting lineup, or is it just he's a perfect sub one? What's your kind of trust in the Arsenal defence at this point?
Yeah, Arsenal's fixtures aren't brilliant.
No, they're not. Yeah,
I think I saw the next four on four of the teams they lost to last season.
Okay, interesting.
So it'll be tricky, interesting to see how they get on. But so yeah, if James hadn't got injured, I probably wouldn't have played White again. But
fair enough.
That's what he's there for. If I don't want to make a transfer, I can play White and get another week's worth of information. Yeah,
perfect kind of sub one, and similar with Andreas Pereira, right? I mean, he's done
it well.
He's been good, hasn't he? Yeah, he's been good in that Fulham midfield or attacking midfield selection. You mentioned Darwin Núñez, Dan, as well. It's sort of becoming a walking meme now, isn't he? With the various misses and what have you. You keeping the faith with Darwin, and you've got the double Liverpool offensive complement there with Mo Salah behind him. Do you think Darwin justifies that price ongoing, and it's just a matter of time, and the sheer volume of chances he's getting is just going to be a matter of time before he hauls hugely, and you've got no concerns with Darwin?
Not at the minute. His XGI is comparable with Haaland at the minute. Obviously, he's not got the big chance conversion that Haaland's got. I saw All About FPL on Twitter. They posted a big chance conversion rates. And, Haaland's up at 66%.
Wow.
But Darwin's down at 25%.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, that's a huge. Yeah, that's a huge difference, isn't it? Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses. You do. I was looking at some Champions League statistics actually earlier this morning and seeing historically how well he's performed there. So I'm with you. I think at the moment he's quite easy to be the subject of ridicule, but I actually think in that team he's just going to keep getting chances, and I do think it will come for him. You mentioned separately, Dan, the Man United defensive solidity that they've had with Rafael Varane and Martinez centre half. I'm assuming that Diego Dalot, once he's back, will be the first choice right back, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka's recent kind of redemption is going to be short lived. And Luke Shaw playing at left back, with David De Gea there, Casemiro in front. To me, that's rock solid. You've mentioned their good fixtures. Was there ever any thought that you wanted to have Man United defence as part of your unlimited transfers, and where would you be looking if you were looking to sort of get on that defensive unit?
Yeah, I think my bus team that I put together at the start of the World Cup had Dalot in. Mm-hmm. He'd been injured. Yeah, but I did consider Shaw.
Yeah, same price, right, as Dalot.
Yeah, and he obviously did well. I think it was just a combination. Obviously, I was looking to fit in the likes of Kane and KDB as well. And I was looking at someone like Cancelo or James down to Luke Shaw. Mm-hmm. But I'm not against Luke Shaw.
No, fair enough. I mean, he played centre half yesterday, so I think that would just cover because of various absenteeism, illness, and what have you. But picked up lovely bonus points, and seems to be the first choice ahead of Malacia. I'm not sure of the pronunciation there, doesn't he? So yeah, defensively they look to be an interesting proposition, I think, Man United, and not much money being expended if you did need to go there. Look, you mentioned KDB and Kane. Let's just have a quick chat about those two. So obviously a lot of chat on social media. Some of the guys are the rest of the elite managers, guys that you can follow on fantasyfootballfix.com. I'm sure you already do. We had a lot of discussion about the Salah KDB as a versus. Some people have gone with both. What ultimately decided, Dan, that you wanted to go with Mo over KDB? What was it that won that particular race for you?
It was probably just a bit of Salah's done so well for us historically. I just feel like I always have that in the back of my mind. But I was looking at their XGI and they're pretty comparable. But obviously Salah's, most of it comes from goal threat, whereas KDB's assist threat.
Yeah.
So, and penalties for Salah as well. Haaland will take the penalties, I assume, when he's on the pitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really tricky one. It was the toughest call on the unlimited transfers, to be honest.
Sure.
And as you say, a couple of the other elite 11 guys, they've gone for KDB, and I'm sure he'll do well tonight.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see, won't we? I mean, he's just such a consistent pick, isn't he? So it really was a difficult one, and I do completely understand with people going either way, or like I say, being able to manufacture both into the team was certainly something that people looked at doing as well. You mentioned Kane. Obviously, he's having an incredible FPL season, really consistent, and yet still somewhat overlooked. I think obviously people are recognising that he's having a great season. Not in your team, not in my team. I haven't seen him in heaps of teams, if I'm honest. Did he come close to bulldozering his way in, or was it just the balance that got too compromised? And what was it that kept Harry Kane from being included? And do you think he justifies the price? What are your thoughts on Harry?
I think he does justify the price. His XGI is similar to Salah. Mm-hmm. I looked at having him instead of Darwin.
Yeah.
But with this draft, I think it was 1.7 or 1.8 in the bank.
Yeah, that's right.
I quite like flexibility. So that was a factor.
Yeah.
But he continues to tick along nicely.
He does, yeah. I mean, they obviously playing in a different way under Conte, aren't they, now than what we've seen in the past? But it doesn't seem to affect him at all, does it? So he sort of remains absolutely viable. But yeah, it's quite tough to find a way. I guess he would need to be a 2 transfer move unless you were going to lose Erling Haaland, which is not something I'm expecting you to be advocating for. Look, you've got the captaincy there on Erling Haaland, Dan. In terms of strategy for the watchers as well, is this? I mean, you've got Salah there as well. I guess he'd be the alternative. Is it just a case of you being where you are, sort of 300k rank, could go up tonight? Is it just a case of that stays on Erling Haaland irrespective of a fixture, or would you be looking to flip it between him and Mo?
Yeah, I think it's the only reason I'd go Salah over Haaland is if Salah had a double and Haaland didn't. I think so a lot of people will be looking as the captaincy as a way to take a risk and climb the ranks.
Yeah.
But I've said this before. I'll let the others gamble while I slowly climb up as their gambles don't. Most of the gambles don't pay off.
And that seems to be advice from all of the elite managers that we've done in this series of videos here on the channel, actually, that those types of plays, don't actually work out in the majority of cases. So that does seem to be the advice, guys, in terms of that deployment. So looking ahead, game week 18 almost upon us already. We've got just the game week's not quite finished with Man City still to play tonight, but let's assume that your boys there, Cancelo, and Erling Haaland come through unscathed. I'm assuming then it's just the Reece James factor, and then you're just going to wait on news, and if not, then you're looking at rolling out the same team in game week 18.
Yeah, I think that was always the plan when put the team together. White can come in for James, and Andreas will move to first sub. He's a great first sub to have.
Yeah, I'm going to push you though, Dan. Let's say the Potter or the news comes out and says Reece James has done his ACL, is out for the season. Obviously, really hope he doesn't, just on a human level. But let's just say he's out for a prolonged period of time. What's the Dan Bennett recommendation there for people who own Reece James, of which there will be a vast number of our watchers and wider? What would you be recommending in terms of doing with that transfer of Reece James for game week 18, or would you hold it for longer and use it as part of a 2?
It's really tough. I ran through some shortlists earlier. There's another one. I don't know if I mentioned Cresswell.
Oh gosh, a West Ham defender. God, I'm a West Ham fan for people who don't know. So I'm not too enthusiastic about that shout, but yeah, okay.
No, their defence has not been great, has it? But
no, it hasn't.
And I like Cresswell.
Cresswell's great. Yeah, I'm being flippant, but I'm not too much faith in our defence.
Yeah, but 90% sure I'll roll. But if I had to make a move this week, it would probably straight to Cucurella, given. And Chelsea have got that double game week 19 coming up. Yeah.
I mean, when I was looking at Eddie's video, which I'm sure the guys watching are aware of, Eddie versus the algorithm, what have you, the fix algorithm was big on Thiago Silva over the next handful of game weeks as well. So, another one to consider there. But, Potter historically has been a nightmare in terms of tweaking compositions there, and we don't yet really know who he favours. So it's difficult, isn't it? Goodness me, we could have done with Reece James being fit, and let's hope he will be. It makes things a lot easier, doesn't it? All right, cool. Let's wrap it up there, Dan. Unless there are any other thoughts, if is there anything else in relation to game week 18 that we've not covered that you want to refer to in terms of that, or maybe a little bit further on, any other longer term transfer plans that you might have?
I think I think it's important if you can roll a transfer, because we will have double game week information coming out in the next few weeks. We obviously had the whole game week 7, was it postponed?
That's right. Gosh,
so
good memory.
There's lots of games to rearrange, and there was some postponements from game week 8. Yeah, so roll a transfer if you can. Yeah, that's what the bench is for. You can move one of your bench into 11 and roll, so you've got more information for next week.
Really good advice, and that probably still extends true to the Reece James thing. With the game weeks being so close, you're not going to lose a heap of value anyway, right? On Reece James, and it being part of a double move, then the flexibility that affords you is going to be hugely important. I would have thought as well. So really good advice. And look, Dan, I mean, each time we talk, this overall live rank keeps getting better and better, and I'm sure as we talk again in the weeks to come, that will continue. And guys, you can of course follow Dan's progress over at fantasyfootballfix.com in the Meet the Elite section with the other guys that have been interviewing, the likes of Corey and Craig, etc. and Mark have been awesome, and they will be joining me again in the weeks to come. So Dan, thanks ever so much, mate, for joining. Any final words?
Thanks, Sam. No, I'll look forward to speaking to you again in a few weeks. Good luck.
Me too, man. Me too. Always a pleasure. Always really nice to talk to you and see your thoughts and how they came to be. And the team looks set up flawlessly, as of course we all expected. So, guys, without further ado, thanks ever so much for watching. Do please smash a like on the video for Dan. Do please get your comments in below, and do please subscribe to the channel and subscribe to fantasyfootballfix.com if you haven't already done so. It's great to be back, and I look forward to talking to you all next week. But until next time, I'll see you next week.